Hey, welcome to Daily Faith today. My name is Philip Cameron, and boy, do I have a great guest for you today. If you love your pastor, now listen to me. If you love your pastor, call him right now and say, watch Daily Faith with Philip Cameron. Just go dailyfaith.tv. That's all you need, dailyfaith.tv. And we're streaming live right now. I am in the studio at this moment. As you're watching this, I'm here right now. And I've got a great friend and a great man of God. Thomas McDaniels spent a lifetime of successful pastoring. And the Lord refitted him, if it's a good description. He was refitted by the Holy Ghost to pastor pastors and encourage pastors. And I've been traveling now and ministering in this country for next month is my 55th anniversary of coming to America to minister. Isn't that crazy? The 12th of March, 1969 is when I arrived here. And the one thing I've noticed over 50 plus years of ministry, our pastors are the loneliest people I know. Pastors need friends. And usually a friend that is a friend for today doesn't mean to say that that friend will be a friend for tomorrow. And they gain and gather information, and then they use what they've learned to poison and destroy the pastor. That's why more pastors are quitting than ever before. That's why churches are closing down like never before. And we need to find a way to encourage the pastor, understand him, and most importantly, support him. And if you love your pastor, if you care about your pastor, he'll want to watch this program and get in contact with Thomas McDaniels. He is a great man of God, a trusted man of God that will be able to speak into your pastor's life confidentially. He has a network of pastors. They gather together, they minister to each other. And we're going to be hearing about that today, and I am just so thrilled to have him with me. If you could share this broadcast today, it would really help us. If you can like it and share it, and if you click on and subscribe, if you're watching on YouTube, we're trying to become more aware of our YouTube channel that we have. It's really simple. It's just YouTube/Daily Faith, youtube.com/Daily Faith. And right there, we have many of our shows archived. Our main place to go is to watch dailyfaith.tv. All the shows are archived there. And you can have a feast on some of the greatest men and women I know. As I said, I've been traveling for a long time, and I can recognize guys and gals that have it and those that don't very quickly. And we've had some tremendous ministry on Daily Faith, and I want to be a part of your life. I want to invite our brand new stations in WCLF in Tampa every Thursday night at 6:30. We are on in the Tampa area. Please watch us and tell someone about it. Also, WFGC in West Palm Beach on Mondays at 7 o'clock. WRXY, I keep mixing that one up for some reason, in Fort Myers. Listen, guys, in Fort Myers, I love Fort Myers. I love the folks in First Assembly. My dear friend Dan Betzer pastored there for many, many years. And we miss being in Fort Myers, and we want to connect with our friends there. And every Wednesday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, if you are there, please tell my friends about us being on WRXY in Fort Myers, and then KWHB in Tulsa. Now, they say that Tulsa is like the Mecca for Christianity these days. There's so many ministries out of Tulsa. And my dear friends, Richard Roberts, and Al Roberts, of course, has passed to the Lord. I spent many, many happy days in Tulsa, Oklahoma with the Roberts. And every Saturday and every Sunday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, both 2 o'clock on Saturday and 2 o'clock on Sunday, we're going to be on there. And we want to welcome you. If you're watching just now and you're looking and seeing us on any of those networks or the stations, let me know, because I want to know where folk are watching us, and it would be a great help. Just send us an email. It's really simple. Just www.dailyfaith.tv, and just say, hey, I'm watching you in Tulsa, or I'm watching you in Fort Myers. And we're looking forward to seeing God expand this ministry. Daily Faith was just started during the COVID. Pastors were calling me from all over the country saying, what do you think is going on in the church? Because I'm speaking in different churches all the time. And I was able to give them advice and counsel and stuff. And my sons came to me and says, why don't you start a daily program bring a pastor on, share his experience of COVID, and other pastors might glean something to help them in their situation. And that's how we started. It was purely, it was a service to the church. But boy, God began to bless it, and other folk began to contact us, and it's just amazing. We get books from, if you're an author of a book, people send us books all the time and say, listen, I'd love to be on Daily Faith. Pastors call us now, and it's just amazing how God has opened up these doors, and more folk are watching us. So we usually do the program on a social network platform, and then we use that one program, the best of the week, and we rebroadcast that on these different networks and stations across the country. We're on TCT. We are on, dear Lord, Journey TV, I believe is Journey, is that correct? Journey TV, Integrity Network, WGGS Network. That's seen in South Carolina and Los Angeles and also in Georgia. So come and watch us, be a part of Daily Faith. I know God will bless you for doing so. I can't wait for you to meet my friend today. I got some great news coming from Moldova also. You're going to love today's program. Welcome to Daily Faith. Hey, welcome to Daily Faith. My name is Phil Cameron. For those that don't watch us regularly, one of the things we have, and our whole family is involved, it started 35 years ago, believe it or not. My dad was in Scotland. He had had cancer surgery, a melanoma in his back. It was big, it was ugly. The wound burst, then he was in a brace trying to stop the wound from tearing any further. And he was sitting at home, and a nurse would come every day and change the wound out. And one day he called me, very upset. And he opened the line was that our baby's dying. And I says, what on earth are you talking about? I was in my mid-30s. All of my bucket lists were full and done. I had done all the stuff I wanted to do, being on major television networks, wrote a book that sold 300,000 copies, living in a beautiful house with a swimming pool and a nice car. I mean, all the stuff I dreamed of had taken place. And this phone call, quite frankly, was interrupting my very happy, easy life. And he called me and he says that our baby's dying. And I says, Dad, what on earth is, what are you talking about? And he told me about orphans in Romania. And I says, look, leave me alone. This is not what we do. I don't want nothing to do with this. Go away. Don't. Next night he called me, the same thing. I'm watching the BBC and they're following these people, watching these babies in these, what do you plan to do? And I says, Dad, I don't plan to do anything. Look, let me point something out to you. You're sick, I'm busy, leave me alone. And he didn't leave me alone. And after a few days, he called me back and he said, well, I'll tell you what, if you won't go, I'm going to go by myself. And if I die on the way, it is your fault. And that was a tough phone call. So I said, for crying out loud, stop it, I'll go. And I went, and it changed my life. Boy, I'm so glad. Sometimes God takes you kicking and screaming into your next phase of ministry, your next life. He changes the chapters. You're growing from glory to glory. He's changing you, line upon line, precept upon precept. And if you are fighting just now in a circumstance that the Lord is trying to move you out of where you are to where He wants you to be, sometimes it's the most uncomfortable thing in the world. It was for me. And I finally drove all the way to Romania, flew home to Scotland, picked up this truck. All our town in Scotland gave us a whole bunch of stuff to take. So we ended up in a convoy of trucks going to Romania. And got there and finally found an orphanage, and it was a horrible place. I walked in the door with a box of baby powder, milk powder, and the stench of human waste hit me like a sledgehammer, and I dropped the box and I ran outside gagging. And he came back outside and he says, get in there. I said, no, I'm not going back. He says, get in there. Don't offend these people. They'll live like this. And I says, Dad, you asked for an orphanage, there's an orphanage. Now leave me alone. I said, if I stay here, I'm innocent. If I go in that doors, I'm guilty. And he grabbed me by the scruff of my neck. And he says, well, you're going to have to be guilty. And I literally walked in, not quite kicking and screaming, but I wasn't happy. He was sick and I didn't want to fight a sick man. And when I walked into my destiny. Walked around the place, it was filthy beyond belief. kids half naked, covered in their own waste, were flopping from crib to crib, covering each other in their own. It was dire. And I walked up these stairs into salon number 5. And in the middle of this room, there was a little face, 30-odd kids, and this wee face was like spotlighted from heaven. And I looked at and I said, look, Dad, look at that boy down there. And my dad said, oh, he's a bonny boy. And I didn't realize that he would end up becoming my son, and I adopted him. It took me a year to adopt him, and we rebuilt the orphanage in that year, put in toilets and drainage and fixed the roof and painted the place, put in new beds. And by doing so, became addicted to caring for kids that have no one to care for them. In a communist society, an orphan in a communist society has the least chance of anything. And that little boy, that's 35 years ago, and he now is my partner in crime. He grows with me. In fact, he got married a few years ago, and he just gave me the most beautiful little grandbaby. Her name is Annabelle, and there she is. Now look at that. You talk about a gorgeous wee face. And Annabelle, and that is Andrew with his wife Yemi. She is from Ethiopia. I have an Ethiopian daughter-in-law. And Chrissy and I are besotted by this little girl. He comes into my room and drops her in my arms, and I just become mush. I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to talk to anyone. Just leave me alone. I've got the love of my life. So she's my 7th granddaughter. And all our family have become addicted to doing work in missions. We moved to Moldova, and in that country, trafficking was the biggest curse. A girl turns 16, put on the street, traffickers get them, use them 30 to 50 times a day. A girl can earn $300,000 a year, one girl, $300,000 a year for their captor. And they come to our home. We've got a fabulous place called Vatra Village. It's a village of houses. It was built originally for rich folk. And as you can see, there's a lake beside it. And they poison the lake with chlorine, and our kids, these houses were just left to go to rack and ruin, and we bought the place and fixed all the houses up. So instead of being put on the street where a trafficker gets them, they come to us, we put them back in college, share the gospel with them, and the most unbelievable thing has happened. Orphans become sons and daughters become missionaries. They just sent us a video the other day that has had me laughing and shouting and crying all at the same time. There's a town called Trachlia, I think it's called. A Scotsman saying Moldovan names is not a good mix. But they go to a children's center where kids just like they used to be live. And they brought Christmas with them. You're going to love this. Watch.
A miracle in a box. Imagine living in a world without love. A gray, cold, unfilling existence devoid of care and hope. Orphan's Hands has found a way to break the curse of loneliness. It's a miracle in a box. All year long, our kids go to them and spend the most precious of all things. Time. Time to hear, time to care, time to help. But today, they carry joy in a cardboard box. And for a moment, these precious souls escape the reality of abandonment and become a happy kid. Orphan's Hands can only reach as far as you allow. Loving generously every day is the roadmap of hope to a better, kinder world.
One of our generous partners is a sensi person. They work with scent, smells, comfort, and all of the toys we brought this time had this fragrance, and you saw the kids smelling them, and it was an amazement. You saw my wife there and my daughter Melody, and all year long I mean, literally from the day Christmas has ended, when the Christmas sales begin, Chrissy is out for 12 hours at a time. She just disappears, and she buys Christmas presents all year long. She's looking for bargains, if you want to help us, go to your local Walmart store, go to your local Ross store, go to wherever you can find bargains, and let us know, call us, and we'll pay for them for you. But we are looking continually for thousands and thousands of Christmas boxes. This last year we sent 5 containers away to Ukraine, where the war effort is there. We have a home. We have a beautiful home in Odessa, Ukraine, where we have these girls. We had to move them to Moldova for a year, and they're now back in Odessa because their school dictated that. And we're watching very closely right now because there is some movement by Russia. Russia is now recapturing the cities that they lost, and our girls are at risk. If a Russian soldier comes into a village, he does to the woman of that village what Hamas did to the ladies in Israel. So I don't want to, that's what happens. And we're watching every day. We're believing God for a van that will stay in Ukraine. Because what happens is when everyone runs, all of the roads go one way. You can't get into Ukraine. You've got to get out. So what happens, we have vans in Moldova, but we couldn't get in for the traffic coming out. And we're believing God for a van right now in Ukraine so our girls can get in the van and escape to Moldova. Let me say this, I heard some terrible news last week. Yesterday in in Moldova, there's a section of Moldova called Transnistria. It is a Russian enclave, like Crimea is, like Donbass is. And they had a meeting on Monday claiming Russian sovereignty. That is a precursor, and they're now meeting at the end of this month, and they're discussing whether Russia should go into Transnistria, and by doing so, they'll take Moldova with them. And we are now looking every hour, watching to see what's happened. If tanks start moving, not only do we have an issue with the girls in Ukraine, we will have an issue to having to move up to 100 people out of Moldova into Romania. And so please pray for us. We are living in horrendously dangerous days in that part of the world. I know it's been politicized. I know everyone has an opinion now about Ukraine, whether we should help them or not help them. I'm not interested in the politics of this, but I am certainly interested in caring and helping and rescuing these girls. And we need your help. You can help us by giving a one-time gift to keep this thing open, to keep this ministry alive. You can also give a monthly gift. The greatest challenge we have is a monthly support. Gasoline has doubled in price. Food has doubled in price. One day we sent our kids, every day they go by buses to the different universities and schools all over the city of Chisinau. And in one day they doubled the bus prices. The kids came back and said, we can't get on the bus. And when asked why, because they've doubled the price and we had to give them double the money, and that's how it's been ever since. Your giving, $1 a day won't change your world financially, but it certainly changes one of these kids' lives forever. And you can give by, make a check out to the Orphan's Hands, P.O. Box 25, Clinton, Tennessee, 37716. We are living in grave days, and I'm asking you if you could, please help us. We've been there for 6 years, long before the war started. We're not there now because it's in the news. We've been there before anyone knew about it. We were helping refugees. This thing's been going on for years, over a decade. Thousands have died before anyone else knew about it. We were supporting refugees long before anyone else knew. And we'll be there after whatever happens. If Russia takes over, Orphan's Hands will be there. If Ukraine manages to repel them, Orphan's Hands will be there. But we'll only be there if you help us and support what we're doing. So please do so, and I'll appreciate it. I have a dear friend with me today, a great man of God, with a great purpose, a great vision that intrigues me. He is a successful pastor, writer. He's written for Charisma News and for Fox News. And he also is founder of LifeBridge TV and Network 411 in Longview, Texas. And he's my friend. All of those things are fine, but he's my friend. Thomas, welcome today to Daily Faith. God bless you, my brother.
Welcome. Hey, listen, I'm so honored to even be a part. And listen, you wreck me every time when I get on the show and I see what's going on. And you update me as well with the stuff that's going on over there. But I commend you for what you do, and it's so honorable and so honorable to the kingdom. And I just want to say thank you from my bottom of my heart. I try to donate regularly, and I do, and I will continue to do so.
Thank you so much.
Sir.
You do.
So we love what you do. I want you to know that.
I want the folks to know that this man supports our ministry in Ukraine and Moldova, and we deeply appreciate that. Tell us, you are interested just now, and when my son told me about what was on your mind, it caught my attention. You are believing and talking just now about assignments and seasons. And if ever I've seen a season of assignments, we are in it right now.
We sure are.
This is the moment of moments. Tell us what God's been showing you.
So true. We're in moment of transition. We're in season of transition, and we have been since 2020, really. But, I got to pondering about how assignments define my seasons. And about 2 years ago, I was standing in the foyer of my church, saw a young man come in, probably 20 years younger than me, looked like a pastor to me. And I've always loved pastors, and always, I started LifeBridge for the purpose of making a difference in the pastors in our city in East Texas. Mm-hmm. And I said, hey, I need to know. And he was like, well, I'm just this guy. His name was Jason, and he was a former pastor, 22 years in the Assemblies of God. Amazing story. Never took a salary in 22 years of full-time ministry. Worked was bivocational. Worked for his church. We became friends, and he is now. We are a tight hip. 2 years later, we're into this thing together. He's under our covering there at Network 411. Yeah. And I realized, and at first there was a lot of hurt. He had a lot of leadership hurt. And so first it was an assignment. And I realized that, and that assignment changed my season completely. It started with him, and then it's moved into loving and caring for pastors, serving them. I take calls every day from pastors, helping them with their struggles. Yesterday, it was about a man that's going to step down. He's assistant pastor, stepping down from his ministry. Want to know how to do that. So my message is, that these assignments, whether they're temporary or whether some of them are long-term, they define those seasons. Like I was a 38-year pastor, senior pastor in a large church in our city, would be called a metro church, and a mega church. But the is that these seasons and these assignments create seasons of purpose for us and seasons for us that we just need to step into. Those things start with a relationship. I like to say assignments start with the people, or persons, places, or even things. And so that's kind of where I'm at. And I threw into that. I've been ministering that for several weeks everywhere I go, and I could share more, but I want to hear from you.
Oh, no, I know exactly. I know the power of assignment, and what happens is something happens in your life, and I know there are folk watching just now, and you get nudged. There's a divine. I call it a divine nudge. When this thing happened with me in Romania, I was getting bored. I preached on a Sunday. I flew out on a Saturday evening. I preached on a Sunday. Flew home on a Sunday afternoon. Took Monday and Tuesday off. Went to the office Wednesday, Thursday. Took Friday off because I was flying again on Saturday. And my life was just this continual, just humming along. Yeah. All the bills were paid. All the challenges were met. I was just, I was on TV. I went to telethons and was well paid for doing telethons, etc. And suddenly this nudge came from this phone call from my dad. And you're thinking, how does that, what does a nudge do?
Yeah, right.
And watching just now, there are people that this program is a divine nudge to them, that God's coming up and going, hey, it's time to move, it's time to change. And I feel that as you're talking to us.
Yeah, I think about David and Goliath, the moment where it was the Goliath moment for David was an assignment, which turned into his overall purpose. I tied it to Elijah and Elisha, where and you can even talk about short-term assignments. Elisha had a short-term assignment to follow Elijah, and then he stepped into his purpose. But the truth is, when I thought about it, deep purpose and our assignments are not the same, because purpose is the foundation reason of your existence. And your overall purpose is to take care of these children, but your assignments are layered
Sure.
in that purpose. So
Yeah.
some people get their purpose and their assignments confused.
Wow.
And they get confused within that. So I like to call purpose the wheel, and then the assignment is the spokes. Like the preacher who's called to preach the kingdom of God, but he also has maybe his overall assignment. God says he's called him in to preach this message, but overall he has different in that purpose. He has different assignments in different seasons. So I like to call the purpose your why and your assignment your what. So, and some people get a lot of that confused, and they get mixed up and confused for chaos. And well, what am I supposed to be doing? This, and this, because your purpose has tributaries that lead you to these assignments. And I've had multiple layers of those assignments. My assignments mostly have been to people, to certain people in my lives, and those have defined the season that I am in. For that, again, LifeBridge was when we founded LifeBridge, I was a 19 years into that assignment. The purpose of that church was not what a typical church is like. Yes, it had the tributaries. There was an assignment to people. There was an assignment, but overall, it was the purpose of the church was to affect and change the city. That was the purpose.
Sure.
The assignments that flowed from that were multi-layered, including equipping the saints for the work of the ministry and raising up people and pastoring them, loving them, caring for them, all of those things. Those were the tributaries to the purpose, or those were the assignments within the purpose of what God had assigned us to. And I know you know a lot about what I'm talking about.
As you're talking to me, I remember one of the great movies I've ever watched in my life. One of the most moving films I've ever seen was Saving Private Ryan. Wow, and if you've watched that movie, you'll never forget it. And he lands on D-Day, and that to most people would be the biggest assignment of your life. That would be the purpose. You don't go bigger than D-Day. And when he gets to the top of that cliff, and at the same time running parallel to that, there's this mother in the Midwest, and the car drives through the fields towards the home. I can see it as I'm talking to you. And the men step out. And her sons, not one son, but 3 sons, 2 are dead, 1 is missing. And the assignment given to Tom Hanks in the movie was to go and find that son. Yeah. And I know folk are watching this program and they're living the movie again with me. And all the different tributaries that he had to go down and fix this and kill these Germans and find this and go there, and it was the wrong guy, and it was... Because in your assignment, there's always something going to distract you from where you're actually going. Right. There's always a reason to quit. There's always a reason to be taken away down a rabbit trail. And you end up saying, my God, I've lost my assignment. I've lost my purpose. But he went all the way through. And at the end of the movie, this old man is kneeling at the crosses in Normandy. And he comes to the man who Tom Hanks, the man who Tom Hanks played, and he looks at his wife and he says, "Have I been a good person? Have I done right? Have I honored this man?" And so in your life today, Pastor, you might be watching us and you're thinking, if you don't have an assignment, you don't have it's like a car with no steering wheel. Everything can work in the car. The engine can be running smoothly. The oil's there. The air conditioning's on. But if you don't have a wheel in your car, you've lost your assignment. You need to have a reason for getting up in the morning. Otherwise, one morning you just don't want to get up. You just want to say, well, there's no point in this. And so I believe that what you're talking today, Thomas, is a word for someone watching. Everybody has an assignment. Everybody. Yes. If you're a housewife, if you're a businesswoman, if you're a businessman, you have an assignment from God. God has purposed you to do something. And until you find that, nothing makes sense. Nothing gels. It's all It's a series of mistakes because the thing isn't together.
Right. And if you're not in it, and some people get out of it and they get distracted and they get moved in the wrong direction, but if you're not in it, and the thing is, sometimes if you're not in it, or in preparation for it, then your preparation is your assignment for this season. And sometimes people forget that. There was several years, 9-10 years of my life where I was preparing for the ministry of what God was doing. I had an assignment one time. God gave me an assignment. I had an invitation. It was kind of an open invitation to be on this television show. And this is in the 90s. And so in the process of that, the television establishment was grooming me for this moment that we were going to do this thing. It was years of hosting and years of working. And that show was 30 minutes long. I prepared for that show for 8 years.
Oh my goodness.
And finally they said, okay, Tom, it's time for you to host this show. And I thought it was going to be, a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, 4 years later. I had an invitation when I was a young man. A man of a local church here had a large church, 1,600 seat auditorium. I was 1 year old in the Lord. And he said, I'm going to have you preach for me.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's awesome. I preached for him 7.5 years later.
Wow.
And sometimes we don't realize that God uses these seasons, that we do have assignments, but we also have to have these foundational purposes in line. In other words, I don't ever prepare for a meeting. I prepare myself before the Lord, right? So the point is yes, those are out there and they are, but in the middle of that, you have these underlying purposes of daily prayer, of seeking God, of reading his word, of growing in the knowledge of the Lord, conforming to the image of the Lord, who he is. Every day, those purposes are going to complete those temporary assignments. That I did that half-hour program. It was an amazing moment for me, but I realized that moment was over, and I would never go back to that moment again.
That's crazy.
And so sometimes we think that we're outside of our assignment, or nothing's happening. The truth is, God's even using your pain, your suffering, everything for the purpose of maybe a moment. That you might try. Well, we could use the Olympic trainer, for instance. They train for 10 years, 9 years,
for 3 minutes.
For a 30-second run, right?
I was watching.
Same thing.
I was thinking just now, King David.
Yeah.
How many twigs did he knock off trees? How many squirrels did he kill? How many? Thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of muscle memory moments until his eye and his hand were in one point. All of that was preparation for 1 second with Goliath.
Yes.
We are out of time. We've got 40 seconds. Thomas, I want folk to get in contact with you because I believe that they can join this network. It's 411. Is it? Explain it to me. Is it 411?
Network 411. 411 means to know. So that's why we use that word 411. Also, it's based on Ephesians 4:11 about the apostles, prophets, pastors, teachers, and evangelists. So that's Network 411 is a group of pastors and a training center where we gather pastors and partners together for the purpose of the kingdom of God, and primarily for the training, leadership, and unity of pastors coming together. We are really a fellowship and family of pastors. I just want to be a friend to pastors, help them and train them.
We're out of time. Thank you. God bless. Bye-bye.
For over 25 years, the Cameron family has been changing the lives of orphans in Romania and Moldova. From providing running water, flushing toilets, and clean wells, to coal for heat, new windows, as well as food and clothing, they champion the physical needs of the orphans in these broken and desolate countries. Many of Moldova's orphans are saved from the horrors of trafficking through homes founded by the Camerons, and in the process, orphans become daughters and sons. They come to know their Heavenly Father and are forever changed by the love of Jesus. God help the Camerons lift these amazing young men and women out of darkness. Now, no longer orphans, they want to return and invade that very same darkness with the light of Jesus Christ. The Orphan's Hands equips these daughters and sons to become missionaries. Your monthly gift of $31 will allow us to rescue and take in more girls and boys, saving them from the hell of human trafficking. Your monthly partnership will allow us to care for those in the Orphan's Hands homes in Moldova and the Ukraine. If you want to join Philip and Chrissy in taking care of these precious young people, please contact us today by calling 833-DAILY-FAITH. You can also give by going online to www.dailyfaith.tv or by writing to Post Office Box 25, Clinton, Tennessee 37716. So many lives depend